HERStory begins in 1976 when Mildred Devine, a trust officer at Connecticut National Bank, saw a need for an organization to support and empower professional women in Southeastern Connecticut. It's hard to believe that at that time, women were not allowed in certain clubs or permitted to join certain organizations.
I was working in the bank, and there were very few women in business and professional positions in the area. The Thames Club, at the time, it was an all-male club, and men in the bank belonged to the club and went over there for lunch. So if my boss wanted to have lunch with me, we had to go across to the Greasy Spoon, which didn't please him very much. It was back at the time of women's lib and when everybody was marching about this and marching about that. And so he thought I should get my placard and start marching up and down in front of the Thames Club. And he would constantly tease me about this, and usually I took it in good fun. And finally one day, he teased me once too often. And so my response that time was, Fred, I don't want in to the club. I want the same thing as or better than the Thames Club. And he's, well, if that's what you want, you better start it yourself. I said, now there's a good idea. And that's when the idea took off.
The Southeastern Connecticut Womens Network began with just a few professional women meeting for lunch.
The requirements for membership were business and professional, managerial. We wanted to keep it at a level where people could make decisions and could afford to take an hour and a half for lunch once a month.
They met at the Ship's Wheel in New London to share professional experiences, setbacks, goals, and hopes for the future.
It was a hard time for women because you were operating in a man's world and you did not get the support from your colleagues. And so it gave us a chance to reach out and to address some of those issues that we were feeling internally or we're experiencing in our own professions, to talk with other professional and business women who were experiencing some of the same things. The recruitment process really started off with one-on-one. You know somebody else, and so you invite them to come and join the group.
The network included women in the banking industry, small business owners, chiropractors, realtors, and attorneys. Nan Crowley and Linda Mariani were two members who joined early on.
I received a phone call from Millie Devine, who was a fellow banker, and she asked me to meet her for lunch, and we talked about the fact that she would like to start a professional women's organization. And I didn't hesitate for a minute.
Then I started seeing announcements in the newspaper of women coming to the area, and so I would just drop them a note and invite them to come join us and see if it was something they were interested in. And more times than not, they came along, and that started growing the group.
I got a letter from Millie Devine saying, gee, I read about you in the newspaper. I understand that you're a lawyer in a large firm, and we are putting together a group of women to support one another and to really network. And I remember being so happy when I received that letter.
What started out as a handful of women meeting for lunch turned into 40 members by 1978, and the network was formally established with a mission statement, bylaws, and a board of directors. In 1980, a second group was formed in Norwich.
It was very exciting. There was no thought that we were going to fail and that there wasn't a need for us, and it's proven itself through the years.
And through the years, the network has supported not only its members, but women in the community. They started helping the Women's Center of Southeastern Connecticut, an agency established to meet the needs of victims of domestic violence.
The Women's Network started helping the Women's Center almost from inception. The two are very close in age together, and there was an overlap of women between the two organizations. The volunteer initiative was very significant, and one of the first programs that we did was a workshop for the women in the shelter.
Those workshops continued with members of the network teaching life skills, from how to dress for a job interview, to financial seminars, to confidentiality and legal issues.
I think both organizations realizing that there was a need for women-based organizations that helped women either professionally or when they were in situations of despair. And so the relationship started way back then at the beginning.
The network was a cutting-edge organization. When we got rolling in the 80s, we really grew by leaps and bounds. As we became an even stronger organization, we felt that it was a wonderful opportunity for us to make a difference in some people's lives and set examples for other women.
An opportunity to give back to the community presented itself when the merger between Norwich and Southeastern happened in 1985.
They had some money that had accumulated, not a great deal, so they decided to turn that money, obviously over, but they wanted it to be earmarked as a scholarship fund.
And we offered the first scholarship to a graduating senior of East Lyme High School in memory of one of our members. It was a group of professional women, very passionate women as far as we believed in what we were doing, not just in our careers, but we were doing in the organization. And we were persistent and tenacious. And it was just a very unique group of individuals, and I happen to think it still is today.
During the 1990s, the economy tightened and downsizing occurred more often. The network drew on their strengths and empowered those facing an unfavorable job market.
We began to see a very great need in our community for business women to be mentoring others, particularly in a tight economy. We began to offer what we called Network Associates, and it was a monthly program at the Groton Public Library. The workshops ranged from how to dress for an interview to how to conduct yourself in an interview, and all of this was a free service. It really was a remarkable gift to people who were feeling frightened when there were so many people applying for the same job.
The discouraging job market impacted this professional organization. The network took a closer look at its membership requirements.
In the 90s, more and more women were entering the business world. So our goal refocused not from trying to assist one another in coping with parity or with our success, but it focused on helping other women to achieve the same success. And we therefore wanted to bring other women in, whether or not they were the head of a corporation, the owner of her own business, which had originally been the qualifications that were required to join the network.
That was the beginning of the diversity that brought us a wealth of new people, new ideas. Diversity beyond anything we had imagined. And we grew stronger because of that into the fact that network today is open, that there are no restrictions on persons who want to be members. And that, of course, does include men. And we benefit from that diversity.
The network discovered yet another strength, fundraising.
The initial idea for the fashion shows is to raise money for the Women's Center, and the very first fashion show raised somewhere in the neighborhood of $14,000. It was a huge success. The women really bonded and became even closer friends as a result of trying to put that all together.
As the network grew, so did their support within the community. For many years, the group knew that the key to becoming a viable business entity was to become a not-for-profit organization.
We're a tax-exempt organization, and you're able to do certain things under that umbrella as a not-for-profit with regard to fundraising and giving out scholarships that you wouldn't be able to do legitimately otherwise.
From the very beginning, communication was essential through newsletters, the directory, and at the luncheons. In the new millennium, membership grew rapidly and the group became even more connected to the world.
It was a big deal when Women's Network got its own website. We were one of the first in the area, so we felt very proud of that. It put us on the cutting edge. We were now a group to be reckoned with.
In 2002, the network wanted to make a significant contribution to the Women's Center, so they participated in a national program called Buy a Brick.
Well, it took off like gangbusters. We couldn't believe the number of orders that we were getting, and it turned from doing a little patio into doing the entire sidewalk.
Many heartfelt inscriptions and words of encouragement lie on those bricks, for that path is traveled by domestic violence victims every day.
We had a dedication ceremony which was very well attended, and the net result was over $10,000. And we were able to furnish the first floor waiting and reception area. The Women's Network to Women's Center is a lifeline. The organization and its basic philosophy of women helping women has never changed.